Hello, my name is Jessica. I am 25 years old, and I work as a freelance writer. My days are usually filled with tapping away, at my laptop in cozy cafes or at home by my window. But today, something unusual happened that I feel compelled to share with you. It started this morning when I decided to take the train to the city library. I needed a change of scenery and thought the library would be a quiet place to spark some inspiration. I boarded the 9:30 a.m. train, settled into a corner seat, and opened my notebook, jotting down random ideas for my next article. As the train rumbled along, a man sat across from me. He looked ordinary, mid-30s, dressed in a navy blazer, holding a leather briefcase. But there was something about him that caught my attention. He seemed anxious, constantly glancing out the window and then at his watch. His fingers drummed nervously on the briefcase, and every now and then, he muttered something under his breath. Curiosity got the better of me, so I offered him a polite smile and said, "Busy morning?" He looked startled, as if he hadn't noticed me there. "Oh yes," he replied hastily. "Just a lot on my mind." I nodded and returned to my notebook, but I couldn't help sneaking glances at him. Something about his behavior seemed off. When the train stopped at the next station, he stood up abruptly, leaving his briefcase behind. He walked quickly towards the door, but before he could step off, the train's departure whistle blew and the doors closed. He stood there, visibly frustrated, as the train started moving again. Now I was left with a mystery. Why would someone leave their briefcase behind? I hesitated for a moment before sliding it closer to me. It felt heavy. My heart raced as I considered opening it. What could be inside? Documents, money, something else? Summoning my courage, I unlatched the briefcase. Inside, I found a stack of papers, a small black notebook, and an old photograph of a woman and a little girl standing in front of a farmhouse. On the back of the photo were the words, "For Anna, always remember." I felt a pang of guilt for invading his privacy, but my curiosity had only deepened. Who was Anna, and why did he leave the briefcase? The man returned to his seat just as I was closing the briefcase. He looked at me, then at the briefcase, and his expression shifted from surprise to relief. "Thank you," he said, his voice soft but sincere. I was afraid I'd lost it. I wanted to ask him so many questions, but before I could, the train reached the next station. He stood up, briefcase in hand, and this time he managed to step off. As he disappeared into the crowd, I was left with more questions than answers. That brief encounter stayed with me all day. Who was he? Why was he so anxious? And what story lay hidden in that photograph? Sometimes life presents us with little mysteries, leaving us to wonder and imagine. Perhaps one day I'll turn this into a story of my own. But for now, it remains an unsolved puzzle, one that I won't forget anytime soon. A week later, I found myself on the same train at the same time, more out of curiosity than necessity. I had been unable to stop thinking about the man with the briefcase. I wondered if he might be there again. To my surprise, he was. He boarded the train at the same station as before, his eyes scanning the seats until they landed on me. A small smile appeared on his face as he approached. "We meet again," he said, taking the seat across from me. "Seems like we have the same schedule," I replied, trying to keep my tone light despite the sudden flutter in my chest. He hesitated for a moment before speaking. I realized I never introduced myself. "My name is Nathan." "Jessica," I said, offering my hand. His handshake was firm yet warm. "Thank you for what you did last time," he continued. I was in such a rush that day, and I didn't even explain. I leaned in slightly, curiosity bubbling over. "You left quite a mystery. The photograph, the note. Who is Anna?" Nathan's expression softened, and a hint of sadness crossed his face. "Anna is my daughter. The woman in the photo is my late wife. That briefcase contained some important documents for a custody hearing." I felt a pang of empathy. "I'm so sorry to hear that." He nodded, looking out the window for a moment before turning back to me. "Life has been complicated, but seeing that photo reminds me of what I'm fighting for." We spent the rest of the train ride talking. He told me about his daughter, his love for writing music, and his struggles as a single father. I shared stories of my freelance career and my dreams of publishing a novel. By the time we reached the city, it felt as though I had known him for years. Before we parted ways, Nathan hesitated. "Jessica, would you like to have coffee sometime? I'd like to thank you properly for your help." I smiled, feeling a warmth I hadn't felt in a long time. "I'd like that." That coffee turned into several more, and over the weeks our connection deepened. Nathan's resilience and devotion to his daughter inspired me, while he said my creativity and optimism gave him hope. Months later, on a crisp autumn morning, Nathan and I sat on a park bench watching Anna play with the fallen leaves. He turned to me, a serious yet tender look in his eyes. "Jessica, meeting you changed my life. I don't know what the future holds, but I'd like to face it with you." My heart swelled as I reached for his hand. "I'd like that too." Sometimes, life presents us with little mysteries that lead to the most unexpected and beautiful chapters. What began as a fleeting encounter on a train became the start of a new story, one filled with love, hope, and the promise of brighter days ahead.